Ella Martinez stood alone on the bridge of her ship. She looked out at the stars and took a deep breath. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Zerzath. Everyone feared them. The massive aliens had attacked ships and colonies for years. No one had ever talked to them and lived to tell about it. But Ella was different from other space captains. While others became famous for fighting battles or making smart plans, Ella had a strange gift. She could talk to aliens that no one else understood. Some people called her brave. Others thought she had a death wish. "Commander, we're getting close to the border," said Alan, her pilot. His hands shook slightly as he worked the controls. "Zerzath territory is just ahead." Ella nodded. "Keep going. We need to find the missing colony ship." 3 days ago, a ship called the Horizon Dawn had disappeared in this area. It carried 500 people looking for a new home. Now they were missing in the most dangerous part of space. "This is crazy," said Peter, the science officer. He had dark circles under his eyes from lack of sleep. "The Galactic Council told us to stay away from this area. The Zerzath have destroyed ships 10 times bigger than ours." "Which is exactly why we might succeed," Ella replied. She pointed to the screen showing maps of Zerzath attacks. "Look at these patterns. They're not random killers. There's intelligence here." Lisa, who worked the communication station, looked up with worry in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean that in 70 years of fighting them, no one has tried to understand how they communicate," Ella explained. "Everyone just assumes they're monsters." The small ship called the Starlight Venture continued forward. It carried only 20 crew members. It wasn't a warship. It was a scout ship, small and fast. Earth Command had sent them to find the missing colonists, but everyone knew it was probably too late. Frank, the security chief, checked his weapons. "If we see any sign of those creatures, we should run. My guns won't do much against their armor." Ella shook her head. "No. If we see them, we're going to talk to them." The crew stared at her in silence. "That's suicide," Alan finally said. "Maybe," Ella admitted. "But has anyone ever tried just talking to them without pointing weapons first?" 2 days later, they found what was left of the colony ship. Pieces of metal floated in space. The crew worked quietly, checking the wreckage for survivors. "No bodies," Peter noted, looking at his scanner. "That's strange." "Commander," Lisa suddenly called out. "Something big is coming toward us, fast." On the main screen they saw it, a massive Zerzath ship 3 times the size of their own. It moved like a predator, sleek and deadly. "Get ready to jump out of here," Frank said, his hand moving to the emergency controls. "No," Ella ordered. "Hold position. Lisa, open a channel." "You can't be serious," Lisa protested. "I am, and don't power up weapons. I think that's what triggers them." Against all rules and the loud objections of her crew, Ella walked alone to the airlock. She wore no armor, carried no weapons. Through the small window, she could see the Zerzath ship attaching to theirs. "Commander, please reconsider." Alan's voice came through her earpiece. "We can still escape." "Trust me," she replied, though her heart pounded in her chest. The airlock door opened with a hiss. Standing before her was a creature out of nightmares. The Zerzath stood nearly 9 feet tall. Its body was covered in hard, shiny armor that looked like it could stop bullets. It had multiple eyes that all focused on her at once. Its claws could tear through metal. Instead of backing away, Ella stepped forward. She had studied recordings of Zerzath encounters. In each one, just before they attacked, they made certain movements. Most people thought these were threatening gestures. Ella thought they might be something else. She raised her hands slowly and mimicked the movements she had seen. The Zerzath froze. Its massive head tilted to one side. The claws that had started to extend suddenly stopped. For a long moment, neither moved. The creature studied her with its many eyes. Then it made a series of clicking and whistling sounds. "I don't understand you yet," Ella said calmly. "But I think you're trying to talk to me, aren't you?" The Zerzath made more sounds. The ship's computer tried to translate but couldn't make sense of the language. "Commander, are you okay?" Frank's worried voice came through her earpiece. "I'm fine," she replied quietly. I think we've been making a big mistake all this time. Slowly, carefully, Ella pointed to herself. Ella, she said clearly. Then she pointed to the ship around them. Human ship, peaceful. We are looking for other humans. The Zerzath watched her movements. Then, to her amazement, it pointed one claw to itself and made a sound that seemed like Vakzara. Vakzara, Ella repeated. Is that your name? The creature made more clicking sounds, then pointed toward the wreckage floating outside. Yes, we're looking for that ship. Ella nodded. The humans who were on it. Do you know where they are? Vakzara moved closer. The crew watching through cameras held their breath. The alien's claws could tear Ella apart in seconds. Instead, it touched a device on its armor. A hologram appeared between them, showing an image of the colony ship. Intact, being taken to a planet.
They're alive? Ella asked, hope rising in her voice. You didn't destroy the ship? Vikazara made more sounds. The computer still couldn't translate most of it, but it caught one word. War. You thought we were at war with you, Ella guessed.
Every ship that comes into your space and you think they're attacking you? Over the next few hours, through simple gestures and the few words the computer could translate, a shocking truth began to emerge. The Zerzath weren't mindless killers. They were defending their territory from what they saw as invaders. When Ella invited Vikazara onto their ship, the crew was terrified. We can't let that thing walk around freely, Frank argued as they gathered in the meeting room. It could kill us all in minutes. If it wanted to kill us, we'd already be dead, Ella pointed out. I think we have a chance to make history here. The first peaceful contact with the Zerzath. Or we could be the next ship that disappears without a trace, Peter said grimly. I've made my decision, Ella said firmly. We'll keep security measures in place, but we're going to treat Vikazara as a guest, not a prisoner. That night, as Vikazara rested in quarters set up for it, Ella recorded a message to Earth Command. We've made first contact with the Zerzath, she reported. Contrary to everything we believed, they appear to be intelligent and capable of communication. The missing colonists may still be alive. Request permission to continue diplomatic efforts. She knew what the response would be. Fear had shaped humanity's view of the Zerzath for too long. Earth Command would order them to return immediately. But as she looked at the stars through the ship's window, Ella knew she couldn't turn back now. Something important had started. Something that might change the future for both species. Sometimes, she whispered to herself, peace requires courage that war never demands. 3 days passed with the Zerzath visitor aboard the human ship. The crew still walked the halls with nervous steps whenever Vikzara was nearby. The alien was huge, standing 9 feet tall with a hard outer shell and sharp claws that could tear through metal. But so far it had shown no signs of wanting to hurt anyone. Commander Ella Martinez spent hours each day with Vikazara. She was trying to learn its language and teach it English. The ship's computer was getting better at translating. The clicks, whistles, and low rumbling sounds that the Zerzath used to talk. Amazing progress, Lisa said as she checked the translation program. She was the ship's communication officer and had been working day and night on the language problem. The Zerzath actually speak using sounds we can't normally hear, like really deep bass tones that are below human hearing. That might explain why we've never been able to talk to them before, Ella replied. We literally couldn't hear half of what they were saying. Frank, the security chief, stood by the door with his hand near his weapon. He still didn't trust their visitor. Just because it can talk doesn't mean it's friendly. These creatures have killed thousands of people. I think there's more to the story, Ella said. She pulled up a star map on the screen. Look at this. Every Zerzath attack has happened in the same regions of space. They never go beyond these borders. Peter, the science officer, studied the map. You think they're defending territory? I'm sure of it now, Ella nodded. And our colony ships have been crossing into their space without knowing it. Later that day, Ella sat with Vikazara in the ship's meeting room. The translation system was working better now, though it still made mistakes. Your people take our breeding grounds? Vikazara asked, the computer translating its deep sounds into English. We didn't know, Ella explained. Humans didn't know that was your space. The maps from the Galactic Council don't show those areas as belonging to anyone. The Zerzath made a sound that the computer couldn't translate. Ella was starting to recognize it as something like frustration. Council not talk to us, Vakazara said. See us, shoot weapons, always shoot first. A chill ran down Ella's spine. You're saying that every time you approached other species, they fired on you first? Yes, for many years. We try to warn when ships enter our space. They not understand warnings. They attack. We defend. Ella called an emergency meeting with her crew. As they gathered around the table, she explained what she had learned. The Zerzath aren't mindless killers, she told them. They're an advanced civilization whose territory has been invaded for centuries. Every time they tried to communicate, other species got scared by how they look and fired on them. Alan, the pilot, looked skeptical. So all this killing has been one big misunderstanding? Not exactly, Ella replied. The Zerzath are predators by nature. They do see violence as a normal part of solving problems. But they never attack without warning. Warnings we've been missing because we can't hear the sounds they make. What about the colony ship? Lisa asked. The Horizon Dawn with all those people? According to Vakazara, they're being held on a Zerzath outpost. They're considered prisoners of war, but they haven't been harmed. Frank crossed his arms. Yet. Peter, who had been running tests on samples from their visitor, looked up from his datapad. The biological scans show something incredible. Their brains are more complex than ours. They process information faster and can remember things perfectly. They're probably smarter than humans. This news made the room quiet. The idea that the feared monsters of space were actually more intelligent than humans was hard to accept. We need to rescue those colonists, Frank finally said, breaking the silence. That's our mission. I agree, Ella nodded. But I think we need to do more than that. We have a chance to end a war that nobody knew they were fighting. She sent a message to Earth Command, explaining everything they had learned about the Zerzath. She asked for permission to go to the Zerzath homeworld with Vakazara to negotiate peace and the release of the colonists. The answer came back quickly, and it wasn't what she wanted to hear. Request denied. Admiral Boyd's face looked grim on the screen. Return to Earth immediately. We're sending a battle group to rescue the colonists. Sir, that's exactly the wrong approach, Ella argued. If you send warships, it will just confirm what the Zerzath already believe, that we're hostile invaders. These are your orders, Commander, Boyd said firmly. The Starlight Venture is not equipped for diplomatic missions of this importance. Return home. That's an order. After the call ended, Ella sat alone in her quarters. Her mind raced with thoughts about what to do. Following orders meant giving up the best chance for peace anyone had ever had with the Zerzath, but disobeying meant risking her career and possibly her freedom. There was a knock at her door. When she opened it, she found Lisa, Peter, and Alan standing there. We heard about the orders, Lisa said. What are you going to do? Ella sighed. I don't know yet. We think you should go to the Zerzath homeworld, Peter said quietly. This is too important to give up on. That would be mutiny, Ella reminded them. Alan shrugged. Only if we fail. If we succeed, we'll be heroes. Later that night, Ella went to see Vakazara. The Zerzath was in its quarters, a room that had been adjusted to have warmer air and different gravity to make it comfortable. My leaders want us to return home, Ella explained. They don't trust that your people want peace. Vakazara's many eyes seemed to study her face. Your kind fears what is different, same as council races. Not all of us, Ella said. Some of us want to understand. I want to understand. Then come to my world, Vakazara suggested. See truth with your eyes. Then decide. Ella took a deep breath. If I do that, I'll be breaking the rules of my people. Sometimes rules must break. For new understanding, Vakazara replied. That night, Ella made her decision. With the help of Lisa, Peter, and Alan, she disabled the ship's tracking system so Earth Command couldn't follow them. They changed course for the Zerzath homeworld. Frank discovered what they were doing when it was already too late to stop them. "This is mutiny," he warned Ella on the bridge. "They'll put us all in prison when we get back." "Maybe," Ella agreed. "But if we can end this conflict and save those colonists, won't it be worth it?" Frank didn't answer right away. Finally, he sighed. "I'll help keep the ship secure, but I want it noted that I warned you." "Noted," Ella said with a small smile. As the Starlight venture jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading deeper into Zerzath space than any human ship had ever gone, Vixara stood watching the stars streak by on the view screen. "Your kind are either very brave or very foolish," the alien observed. "Probably both," Ella admitted. "But sometimes that's exactly what's needed to change things." They were heading into unknown territory, breaking rules and risking everything. But for the first time in 70 years, there was hope for peace between humans and the most feared predators in the galaxy. The Zerzath homeworld wasn't what anyone expected. The humans had imagined a dark, harsh planet filled with predators. Instead, they saw a world of stunning beauty. Huge crystal formations rose from the ground, glowing with inner light. Buildings, made of strange materials, blended with the natural landscape. "It's beautiful," Peter whispered as they approached in a small Zerzath shuttle. They had left the Starlight venture in orbit. "Our home for many thousands of years," Vikazara said with pride in its translated voice. "You are first humans to see it." Ella stood at the window, watching as they flew over vast cities where millions of Zerzath moved about their daily lives. "Are those all cities?" she asked, pointing to clusters of structures that reached high into the sky. "Yes, we are many," Vikazara explained. "What your kind calls hives, but not simple like insects. Complex society." The shuttle landed on a platform near one of the largest structures. As soon as the doors opened, the humans felt the warm, thick air of the planet. It smelled strange, not bad, but very different from Earth. "Breathable for humans," Vikazara assured them. "Different, but not harmful." As they stepped out, a group of Zerzath warriors approached. They were similar to Vikazara, but with slight differences in their armor and markings. Their posture seemed tense, and Ella recognized what she now knew was a defensive stance. Vikazara stepped forward and made a series of clicks, rumbles, and movements that the humans couldn't fully understand. The translator caught only parts. "Peaceful. New understanding. High Matriarch." After what seemed like a very long time, the warriors stepped aside. "The High Matriarch has agreed to meet you," Vikazara explained to the humans. "This has never happened before. No off-worlder has ever been allowed to see her." "Who is the High Matriarch?" Lisa asked as they were escorted into the massive structure. "She is leader, mother." Both words not right, Vikazara struggled to explain. "She guides all Zerzath. Very old, very wise." They walked through huge tunnels that went deep under the surface. The air grew warmer as they descended. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, and Ella noticed that the Zerzath seemed to respond to these patterns. "Those lights are part of how they communicate," Peter realized, watching closely. "They use light patterns along with sounds." "Yes," Vikazara confirmed. "Light speaks to eyes. Sound speaks to body. Together make full meaning." As they walked, other Zerzath stopped to stare at the humans. None had ever seen their kind before. "They're scanning us," Lisa observed nervously. "I can feel it somehow." "They memorize you," Vikazara explained. "Every Zerzath who sees you will know you forever, anywhere in galaxy." After walking for nearly an hour, they reached an enormous chamber deep within the planet. The room was lit by glowing creatures that clung to the walls and ceiling. They pulsed with light in patterns that matched low sounds filling the air. In the center of the chamber was the largest Zerzath they had seen yet. Nearly twice the size of the warriors, the High Matriarch had an outer shell covered in markings that seemed to tell stories. Some parts of her armor had been modified with what looked like ceremonial additions. The warm blood seek audience. The Matriarch's voice came through their translators, deep and powerful. You are first to approach without weapons drawn. Why? Ella stepped forward, trying to show respect but not fear. We come seeking peace and understanding. For too long, our peoples have fought because we didn't understand each other. For the next 3 hours, Ella explained how humans had misunderstood the Zerzath. She showed evidence of peaceful intentions and proposed an alliance between humans and Zerzath. The matriarch listened without interrupting. When Ella finished, the massive alien was quiet for a long moment. Your council species have invaded our space for generations, she finally said. They take resources from our breeding grounds. They attack our ships. Why should your kind be different? Because we recognize your right to your territory, Ella replied. And because we're new enough to galactic politics that we don't share the council's fear of you. The matriarch's huge head tilted slightly. Yet your battle fleet approaches our borders now. Ella's heart sank. Earth Command had sent ships faster than she expected. Without my permission, let me contact them. I can stop them. No, the matriarch decided. You will watch instead. If your kind truly wants peace, prove it through actions, not words. When they were taken to their quarters, rooms adapted for human comfort, Lisa managed to establish a secure channel to the approaching Earth fleet. Admiral Boyd's face appeared on the small screen, showing shock when he saw them alive. Martinez, what are you doing down there? Sir, you need to stop your attack immediately, Ella urged. The Zerzath are not what we thought. If you attack, you'll destroy everything we've accomplished. You've been compromised, Boyd said firmly. We attack in 6 hours unless the colonists are released. After the call ended, Ella turned to find Vikazara watching from the doorway. Your leaders do not trust you, it observed. No, Ella admitted. They're afraid, just like your people are. Fear makes both our species dangerous. Then we must remove fear, Vikazara said simply. I will take you to see the captured humans. But first there is something you must understand about our kind. Vikazara led them deeper into the hive complex. They entered a dimly lit room where thousands of crystal formations pulsed with inner light, similar to the ones they had seen outside but smaller. Our memories, Vikazara explained, pointing to the crystals. When Zerzath dies, their thoughts are saved here. We are not just individuals. We are one continuous mind across many generations. Ella moved closer to one crystal. You're saying your species never truly dies? We are one, Vikazara corrected. And we remember every attack, every time council, species hurt us. This is why trust is difficult for us. Ella looked at the thousands of crystals, each containing the memories of a Zerzath who had lived and died. An idea formed in her mind, crazy and risky, but possibly their only chance. Then, add my memories too, she said suddenly. Let your people see humans through my eyes. Her crew immediately protested. Commander, you can't be serious, Frank said. We don't know what that would do to you, Peter added. But Ella had made up her mind. It's the only way to build true understanding. How does it work? The process was not designed for humans. It was painful and disorienting as Zerzath neural interfaces connected with Ella's mind. But as her consciousness temporarily joined with the hive mind, she experienced something amazing. She saw centuries of Zerzath history, their struggles, their fears, their deep desire for connection despite being feared by all other species. She felt their confusion when other species attacked without provocation. She understood their loneliness as a species that valued community above all else. When Ella regained awareness, she was lying on a platform. The High Matriarch herself stood before her. No outsider has ever shared consciousness willingly, the Matriarch stated. Your memories are now part of ours. This changes our understanding of humans. Will you help me stop a war? Ella asked, still dizzy from the experience. Yes, the Matriarch decided. The captured humans will be returned. And we will speak with your leaders. 6 hours later, when Earth's battle fleet arrived in orbit, they found the captured colonists already loaded onto Zerzath transport ships, unharmed, and ready to go home. Standing with them was Commander Ella Martinez, alongside her new ally, Vikazara, preparing to present something no one had ever imagined possible, a peace treaty between humans and the most feared predators in the galaxy. The room was silent as Ella Martinez and Vic Zara walked to the center of the Galactic Council chamber. Representatives from 17 different alien species watched with a mix of fear and surprise. No one had ever seen a human and a Zerzath standing side by side as friends. "The agreement we present today doesn't just end fighting between humans and Zerzath," Ella began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "It creates a way for all council races to make peace with the Zerzath." A tall, blue-skinned alien named Drevax stood up from his seat. "This human has no power to speak for the council," he said angrily, "and we should not trust creatures who have attacked our ships and colonies for years." Vic Zara stepped forward, causing many council members to tense up or move back in their seats. "We attacked because you entered our space without permission," the Zerzath explained. "Your ships take resources from our breeding grounds. Your military vessels fire on our messengers because you fear how we look." For the next 12 hours, the truth came out. For centuries, the council races had been setting up mining operations in what they thought was empty space. But this space belonged to the Zerzath, who marked their territory using complex energy patterns that council technology couldn't detect. What looked like random attacks were actually the Zerzath defending their homes after their warnings were ignored. The Zerzath tried to communicate, Ella explained to the skeptical council, but they used sounds too low for most species to hear, along with light patterns and movement. "We thought they were threatening us, but they were trying to talk to us." Back on Earth, Ella faced a military court for disobeying orders. The trial was broadcast to all human colonies. "You ignored direct commands," Admiral Boyd said sternly. "You put your crew in danger and could have started a war." "And instead, I prevented one," Ella replied calmly. "With respect, sir, sometimes doing the right thing means breaking rules that don't make sense anymore." The court's decision surprised everyone. Ella received an official punishment for not following orders, but was also promoted to a new position called Xenodiplomacy Ambassador, the first of its kind. 6 months later, humans and Zerzath opened a joint research center in neutral space. Scientists from both species studied the unique way Zerzath communicated, leading to new technology that would eventually allow different species to understand each other better than ever before. 1 year after Ella first met Vic Zara, a small celebration took place aboard the Starlight Venture. The original crew reunited with their Zerzath friend, who had become the official ambassador to Earth. "I still can't believe we didn't get eaten," Alan joked, much more relaxed around the towering alien than he had been a year before. "Your taste would be unpleasant," Vic Zara replied with a clicking sound they now knew was laughter. Later that evening, Ella found herself standing with Vic Zara on the observation deck, looking at the stars. "The High Matriarch has approved the knowledge exchange program," Vic Zara told her. 100 human scientists will be allowed to study in our memory archives next year, and 20 young Zerzath will attend Earth universities, Ella added. "Who would have thought we could come so far so quickly?" "Those who cannot change die," Vic Zara said simply. "Both our kinds understand this. It is why we will succeed together, while others hold on to old fears." News of the alliance spread across the galaxy. Other species who had been enemies for centuries began to reconsider their old conflicts. The Mrag Collective, who had stayed isolated for hundreds of years, began talking to council races again. The silicon-based Letharians, who were so different that no one thought they could communicate with them, asked to join council meetings as observers. "They're calling it the Martinez Doctrine," Lisa told Ella as they prepared for their next mission. "The idea that no species is too different to understand. We just need to find the right way to communicate." As the Starlight Venture got ready to leave for its next assignment, Admiral Boyd came to see them off in person. "I was wrong about you, Martinez," he admitted quietly. "Your methods are unusual, but they work. The President wants to know if you'll write a guidebook for future contact with new species." "With all respect, sir," Ella replied with a smile. "I think the point is that there can't be a guidebook. Every species needs a unique approach. We just need to be brave enough to find it." As Earth grew smaller behind them, Ella thought about How much had changed? One small ship, one chance meeting, one willingness to look beyond appearances. Sometimes that was all it took to change the course of history. The Starlight Venture's next mission was to visit a Zerzath colony world where human scientists were working side by side with the once feared aliens. This colony was especially important because it sat on the border between Zerzath space and Council territory, a place that had seen many battles in the past. "I've been studying the Zerzath language," Peter said excitedly as they traveled. "Not just the translator version, but the actual sounds and light patterns. It's fascinating how complex it is." Frank, who had been the most skeptical at the beginning, nodded. "I've been training with some of their warriors. Their fighting techniques are unlike anything I've seen. They don't just rely on strength. They use their opponent's fear against them. That's what made them such effective predators," Ella explained. "They understand fear better than any species we've met." When they arrived at the colony, they found something remarkable. A mixed community where humans and Zerzath worked and lived together. The humans had adapted to the warmer climate and different gravity, while the Zerzath had modified some of their structures to be more comfortable for their smaller allies. A group of human children played in an open area, running and laughing, alongside young Zerzath who moved carefully to avoid hurting their fragile friends. The children showed no fear. To them, the Zerzath were just people who looked different. "This is what the future looks like," Ella said softly, watching the scene. "Yes," Vakzara agreed. "The young ones do not carry old fears. They see with new eyes." That evening, a ceremony was held to mark the first full year of peace between humans and Zerzath. Representatives from several council races attended, still nervous but curious about how this unlikely alliance worked. When it was Ella's turn to speak, she kept her words simple. "A year ago, I stood face to face with what I had been taught was a monster. I was afraid, but I chose to see beyond that fear. What I found wasn't a monster, but a person from a different world with different ways. If we can all learn to look past our fears, imagine what we might discover about each other." As the celebration continued late into the night, Ella slipped away to a quiet spot. She looked up at the unfamiliar stars and thought about the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the terrifying moment when she first stood before Vikazara in the airlock. She remembered the confusion and anger from Earth Command when she chose to trust rather than fight. She remembered the pain and wonder of sharing her mind with the Zerzath collective consciousness. But most of all, she remembered the moment when the High Matriarch had said the words that changed everything. "Your memories are now part of ours. This changes our understanding." Sometimes the bravest thing wasn't fighting or running away. Sometimes the bravest thing was standing still, looking fear in the face and choosing to understand. That was the real lesson of the human who shocked the galaxy by befriending its deadliest predator. The end.